Hi everyone, you're watching Good for the Game TV. I'm Brent Graham. It's 9 o'clock on a Monday night. It's time for Use It or Lose It. Well, we had a thrilling weekend of Rugby Championship action. What an incredible draw there at the Cape Town in Wellington. And Australia, well, they did the business against Argentina, beating them by 6 points in the end, which is round about where the bookmakers had it. But I've got to say, it was pretty impressive from the Aussies. I don't think we're going to be spending too much time on that game, though, because so much to talk about as far as the New Zealand Bok game goes. Before you do anything else, if you are new to our videos, go down below the video, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell, and you will be notified of all of our videos going forward. Let's start, though, by introducing you to tonight's panel. And I'm going to start off with Jared Wright from Ultimate Rugby. Jared, good to have you on the show.
Oh, it's great to be back on. Thanks for the invite once again.
Nice. Excellent. And I mean, it was a cracking weekend of rugby. I mean, I haven't seen Twitter go buzz like that for quite a while as it was during that game.
Yeah, a lot of controversial moments. I see that everyone's still going on about. But yeah, otherwise, a very good weekend, I think. A bit of a bore after the Bok game, but what can we do about that?
Yeah, what can we do about that one? I'm sure Couch Critic will have some comments on that. But let's first welcome Sean at Judge Rugby on Twitter to the show. Sean, good to have you back.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to be back again, and thank you. And I actually think we're going to be in an absolute cracker today. So, yeah.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a nice. I mean, just the way everything ended up, we had said last week it'll be nice because we've almost got two different teams. So we're going to be able to analyze different performances. And what we'll do is we'll start off talking about the games a little bit, but then really dig deep into the Springbok team, go through it like we did last week and see who's putting their hand up and who might actually be at a little bit of risk. And then there's a Couch Critic. Couch, how are things down there your way?
How's it, Brent? All good. Nice seeing you doing the evening show again and not those early mornings with that beanie on doing the cycling, eh?
I tell you what, after 21 Tour de France previews, I'm absolutely buggered. But I got to say, I mean, Judge, I'll bring you in. Yeah, I told you got to give cycling a chance, and the stage you choose to get involved in was ended due to a landslide. You tweeted, what a stage to watch.
Didn't get involved at all. I just happened to see someone retweet something that the thing was cancelled, and I was like, come on.
I've watched a lot of cycling, and I've seen stages I've seen them shorten stages on purpose, but I've never seen that before in my life. It was unbelievable. But what a great tour. But let's talk rather about the rugby now. Hey, what's that, Judge?
I said they should try it more often.
That's it. I liked your comment on Twitter. You'd rather goggle wasps. I mean, there's a guy who doesn't want to watch cycling. That's for sure. Right, let's move on to the games itself. And we'll start off with the New Zealand-South Africa game. And, Judge, let's stay with you there. I mean, a thrilling draw in the end, but a real game of two halves. I mean, we actually dominated the first half, yet trailed, and then we won the second half by a point. But you'd have to say it was all New Zealand in the second half.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I think once you sort of have a look at some of the numbers and you see what happens. Yeah, we did dominate, but did we force the All Blacks into making crucial decisions and questioning their defensive setup? No, I thought, if anything, that the All Blacks were using this as a really good little training ground to test their defense and everything, and I thought they handled it exceptionally well. I would just like to see us be a little bit more creative come third, fourth phase, and I think we've historically broken down there for some time now, and I think it's kind of what we're going to do and how we want to manage that space. But very interesting. We're all over it in the first half, and they score, and they're all over us in the second half, and we score, and it was finished all square, and you can't complain too much about it, to be very honest.
Welcome to the guys in the live chat there, Andre and Chris Mouton. And Jared, I'll go to you with Chris's comment and follows on from what the judges said there. Finds it quite worrying that we weren't able to capitalize during our period of domination in the first half. And I mean, I think that's fair comment. We all know when the World Cup comes, you're not going to get many chances, and you have to take them when they come.
No, I do agree. I was very impressed with our defense. But yeah, I think there is one or two things that is just not coming right with our attack. I don't know if we need to be a bit more patient and to take it through more phases. You watch a team like Ireland and they're willing to take the ball through 20 or 30 phases, whereas we look like we're sort of out of our gears once we hit 10, if that. So yeah, I don't know. I think it will come right eventually, but I think our defense is more importance at the moment, and the attack can sort of come a bit later once our defense is 100% right.
And Couch, just to bring you in there, I mean, Rassie Erasmus did say after the game, he alluded to the fact that guys like you and I, who love our points betting and that would have taken note of, is that he's expecting a real defensive slog in the World Cup. And I've been saying this for some time. I reckon come the quarterfinals, we're going to be lucky to get 2 tries in a match. It's really going to be tense, tight stuff. Obviously, guys are going to be taking points when they're on offer as well. And the defenses are just becoming so sound. And I totally agree with Jared's comment. You know, Ireland, I can remember numerous times when they've taken it through 26 phases and then maybe walked away with 3 points or whatever at the end of the day. I'm not sure that the Southern Hemisphere sides have that patience.
No, definitely. I think it's an aspect of modern day rugby. You know, that's the one thing you can work on, and the one thing you can study is how you line up and how the opposition is going to be lining up. And that's why turnover ball and so anything that when the defensive lines are unstructured, and that's where you're going to be at your most dangerous. And I mean, we pretty much saw it on the weekend. You know, they scored off that one turnover of Dwayne's knock on, and you know we weren't set for that. We were in attacking frame of mind, and that's when you hit us. And I mean, even in some of the Currie Cup games, that last try of Green and things like that, you know, it's just when the game is loose and you haven't had a chance to set, that's when you got to try and use it, and that's going to be exactly the same in the World Cup. And the other thing is the teams are going to be a lot closer. You know, I don't think it's not that you expect to be the Wales or you even can expect to be the Scotland or something like that and actually put on points. It's going to be about scraping out of that game with a W. So you know, there's no easy game there, except maybe your Namibias and those really small guys. But for the rest, it's going to be a hard graft. So it's definitely taking your points and knuckling down and getting the job done. And the other thing I think as well is often the forwards are closer. You know, there used to be a big disparity between teams where you can just bully a guy up front and it's easy going. And I think these days maybe some of the modern laws have made it a bit tighter as well, especially dominating at scrum time. So that does make it interesting. And then just in terms of the boxing in general, I'm 100% with Jared there. I think, you know, defensive is much more structured and a system kind of thing, and getting that under the belt was the most crucial part of these past 2 tests and probably the past 12 months under Rassie. And I think we can tick that. You know, obviously you're going to make individual errors, but I think everyone's got a buy-in now. You know, they're on the Ninabe system and things are working. And I actually find it strange that everyone gets very panicky with this system, with the wingers coming in and you see an opposition winger going down the touchline and making 10, 15 meters. But, you know, it's fine under that system because everyone's understanding that they're going to be caught up by the rush defense. They're going to be caught up by the fullback pushing in again. So I think that's where we did really well. You know, that one was that was something different. But the rest of the times when they did pop through one of those breaks or go around us, everyone was solid and we didn't panic and we caught up, and the rush defense and the scramble defense did its job. So, you know, don't get panic about it. That is the system. By hook or by crook, that's what we're going for, and it's what Ninabe believes in and Rassie believes in, and I think now he's got the buy-in of the players, so that's crucial.
And Jordan, just on that defensive system, I saw quite a few of the New Zealand guys, some of which we've had on various shows and that over the time. They were saying, I think it was at Cornflake Crib, I think it is, he was saying that teams struggle to keep that rush defense up properly for the full 80 minutes. And he might have a point there, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. And let's face it, when it is done properly, it's incredibly effective.
Yes, and there's also something that, like, I still want to do the numbers and I'm going to have to work out a little bit, but you got to understand is when a guy's shooting up out wide, when a player beats him, that shooting defender is still 3-4 meters in front of the line. So when a guy beats him and the guy scramble across and they tackle him, he doesn't necessarily go 5-10 meters over the advantage line. He's actually probably 1 or 2 meters or maybe in line with. So I'm not saying it's always the case. It's just saying it's something worth looking at. We don't want a guy to go rush up and miss a tackle. I just think, like, I know that we were going to discuss like going into the defensive. So I thought defensively we were really, really good. I think we made a couple of bad calls out wide. But as a whole, those errors have been reduced dramatically if you look at 2 years ago. And Rassie I don't think's been in the job 2 years, just under. And he did say that it would take 3 years to get his system and the players ready. And 3 years would be sometime next year. And he's just brought through a whole host of new guys that have got to learn the system. Fortunately, they get to do it with a bigger group and have guys help them through as opposed to everyone learning something brand new. So I have no problem with it. the decision making and the percentages will get better for us eventually. So like specifically Makazole Mapimpi, I think like I don't want to drop him now. And he did make a bad call this weekend and a bad execution. I do think it's an easy fix though. I really do. I don't think it's a hard problem fix that he can't sort out. Like I think he can. So I wouldn't mind seeing him start next week. We'll just wait and see what happens.
So we're looking forward to getting into the positions. We've already had some comments on the live chat there about Damien Dalenda. So I know that's going to the number 12 jersey will be an interesting one to chat about. Jared, just from a Springbok point of view, Urasi Erasmus, obviously the way we snatched the way we snatched the draw was great. You know, I mean, we certainly it was very exciting. We hadn't really looked like scoring, and suddenly we got that try. But do we take more out of this game than New Zealand, or like Sean says, was it really a case of New Zealand in typical fashion looking to peak on the World Cup? I mean, if you were looking at it another way, if you were a New Zealand fan, would you be a bit concerned about the fact that the Boks in their last 2 visits to your country have got a win and a draw to their name?
Yeah, I wouldn't be pushing panic station buttons or anything like that as an All Black fan. I think they sort of trying stuff out and trying to get certain combinations working. But I'd definitely be worried about the Springboks and what will happen come the World Cup, the first game in Yokohama. But yeah, I think the Springboks have sorted a lot of things out, and it's looking very good for us. And he was actually asked in the press conference right after the game, how does it feel beating the All Blacks 16-all? And that's sort of how it felt as a South African fan. You were celebrating that last try as if we had won the game. But yeah, I think there's a lot of confidence that we can take from that game, and I think that's the key thing, knowing that we can beat the All Blacks and we can run them close. But yeah, it's just the small moments we sort of winning. We won the small moments in the last game against the All Blacks in Wellington, where it was Deante that came up for that tackle, and then again this week we won the small moments where the Yankees goes over. So I think that's the big positives we can take from it, is we winning those particularly small and crucial moments.
And certainly, I mean, if we had to go back 2 years, I mean, mentally as South African fans, as a South African team, we're in a totally different place now. I mean, Couch, there was a time where I didn't give us a hope in the World Cup. I honestly, I wouldn't have backed him with your money, quite frankly. And you look at it now, I mean, it's not that we're suddenly World Cup favourites, far from it. I mean, there's just so much competition there. But we go into this World Cup knowing we've got the squad that could possibly do it. We've got the depth. And if we put things together, and for me, one of the things that Rashi's done really well is the way the Northern Hemisphere guys have slotted in. I think we look at just a better side. Even the way the Northern Hemisphere play, we seem to have picked some of that into our game.
Brent, just firstly, with my money, you can probably only back about Argentina. That's pretty much all it'll cover. Otherwise, your return would be just way too low. No, I think on that one, it's as you said, the Northern Hemisphere guys have slotted in nicely. I just want to go onto that thing that Jared said there. It's irritated me a while now. I know we've had the examples. The Sharks wasn't much of a factor because they didn't have a say in that, but the Stormers taking the penalty and taking a draw. But I mean, this week for me, people saying how can we get excited about a draw it's just absolutely irrelevant. I mean, we were there with 2 minutes left in the game and you're 7 points behind. The only thing you can do, a win from there, is drawing. I mean, that's the only realistic thing you can do, and you pull it off. Obviously, the guys should be high-fiving. They should be slapping each other on the back. That is the best they could have done in the first place. And then secondly is, we dominated the first half. We couldn't lead. And then you saw this New Zealand machine, the All Black machine, get into its rhythm, and you just thought, okay, we're done. Yeah, we're holding on, and we're gonna struggle. Yeah, this is gonna probably get ugly for us at 10.1. And somehow, the guys just kept at it, and that's where the defensive system came in. They got a few little holes, half gaps, but we just, we kept it tight. And to me, that was the impressive part about it. We didn't let it go, and that's again where the joy is fine, because it felt like we were gonna lose this game, and somehow they hung on. And as Jared said, that's important for us and our mental framework is, those small moments showing that we didn't just fade away and let it go. We actually fronted up and we did things right under pressure. And, as I told Sean last week, is I'd love to see some pressure on New Zealand. And I mean, Brent, you know how much I love them. I love the Crusaders, and I love the way they play rugby. But I'm telling you now, he's stuck to his guns. Hansen, he knew he was going to try a few things, and he's decided to go that route. But I'm starting to think that they've got a few more questions than they've got answers at this stage. I mean, you've pointed it out. Reed is nowhere near his form. I thought he was going to come on, and he's struggling. I mean, he dropped the ball cold there that he'd never do. He's not having an impact in the game. They've got a serious question: who's their best 6 or 7? You know, their 6, our 7. They haven't got. I mean, I think he's on the phone now to Squire and telling him, "Listen, stop this crap. Lace up your boots and let's go, because we're in trouble here." And yeah, you know, there's just a few. When Retallick got grabbed at his shoulder, he would have been out of his seat and panicky and thinking he's lost the World Cup here. I think there are some serious questions. He's moving guys around now to try and see where Mohanga can come in. He's moving the best fullback in the world to wing. I just think somehow, Gary on your betting show has said they should never be even money favourites. I'm on him there. It's just there's some cracks here, and I'm not saying they can't win it and they're not going to win it. But I'm saying New Zealand rugby hasn't been in this position in quite a number of years, where all of a sudden there are a few things flying around that they're not exactly. And for 12 to 18 months, they probably had one impressive performance in that time. So things are a bit shaky there.
Yeah, certainly I have to agree with you there. I mean, I think New Zealand have mastered the art of winning rugby without the ball, and they certainly showed us that in the first half, the way they managed to still come back and get that win. But I do feel it's a matter of time before sides are just getting better and better at retaining the ball. And like Jared says, Ireland, for example, taking it through the phases, they're going to struggle to beat teams who can hold the ball like that for long periods against them. I just want to go to Sean on this one, because you raised an interesting point about the draw. You said it was celebrated like a victory because that was the best we could do at that point. Sean, let's go back to the last minute of the game. Let's say we 3 points down and we win a kickable penalty on the 22. What do you think we would have done there?
We would have kicked for points.
We would have taken the draw. And I agree with you. I was thinking of it, but I mean, there might have been you would have had some people saying, we should have gone for the win. But at the end of the day, we got the best we could out of that. I mean, it was one. I haven't really had a good look at it afterwards. What did you make of that? To me, in real time, it looked like a knock-on where they got the penalty to lead by 7 points. But I have seen some comments on Twitter saying it's not as clear-cut as that. It could have been us playing the ball a bit.
With Mapimpi,
yes.
When he went for the penalty. So this is the way I look at it. If you look at the video evidence, everyone's like it's a knock-on. Okay, but if you look at everyone was saying it's a knock-on because of where the ball went. But if you look at the video, you cannot clearly see it knocking on. Like, we've got to be honest here. Okay. The other thing is, could Mapimpi have ripped the ball out in contact? Yeah, I think he could have. Could the All Blacks have knocked on? Absolutely. And then could there have been a South African playing the ball on the ground? I think so too. So the best way of looking at that is the only way you were going to see that is by looking down, which is pretty much where the ref was looking, and he made the call. You can't, if you want to be so hard-ass about it, and you can't guess, be sure something happened. If it definitely happened and you want to bitch about it, go for it. But don't guess and hope. It's not guaranteed that it was a knock-on. It's likely there was a knock-on, but you can't really prove it in any way. So you've got to go with the ref, Yeah,
and the ref did say, the ref said he didn't see it. And to be fair, when it happened in real time, I thought knock-on. But the first thing I looked at was the ref can't see it from where he is. Well, that was my impression at any rate. And it was a far side from the touch judge. I can totally, these things are going to get missed in the game and just got to be accepted. And please, we sort of came back and got the draw there. So, just one of those things. But I guess that's what Twitter's all about, people having a good moment. But just also to touch on the importance of this game. If I look at your tweets in the sort of, let's call it the 24 hours leading up before the game, you were incredibly excited about this game. And it was really, I think, for no other reason than you wanted to see where we stood in, whether we could go toe-to-toe with New Zealand. So at the end of the day, I suppose a tick in that box.
Yeah, it was our first test of the year. If you go back to before we played the Wallabies, we were so excited to see what was going on, and we had the same excitement leading up to the All Black game. And, I think in the first test, we answered a lot of questions, and in the second test, we've created a lot of questions, which is quite interesting. But, we've got a clear understanding of everything, and we've got to give the guys a little bit of grace. I don't know if we should or shouldn't, but it is their first game, so does rustiness come into play? Because that was what was said last week, and in truth, it should be said this week as well. So really, Argentina is when we should really be knuckling down on the guys if they don't perform. I don't know. It's a tough one, and it's an interesting environment. And there's no doubt in my mind that us and many other sides are using all current games, whether they are competition or friendlies, because the Pacific Nations Cup is on at the moment as well. They're using these to work towards the World Cup. You want to win the World Cup, you want to perform in the World Cup, that is the stage to do it. And we've got a Rugby Championship along the way and we're using it. And I have no issues with it. We get to see a few other things, and Rassie gets to extend his squad, which in truth you'd never be able to do outside of a World Cup in a Rugby Championship, because we'd want to win it, like really, really want to win it outright. So it's, you don't want him testing, and when does he test? And I think he's ticking a lot of boxes.
Right, so I'm just looking here. Stain, you looking forward to the chat on the number 12 jersey. Definitely not a Damien Dalenda fan there in the live chat. Agree there, a lot of boxes ticked. And I think I'm going to leave this game for now. We'll just touch on the other game because we're going to come back and actually have a look at the Bok performance in more depth. And no doubt we'll talk more about the game then. But let's talk a little bit about Australia against Argentina. And Couch, I'll start with you because I think I know the other guys didn't get a chance to watch the game in full. You did watch it. I'll give you my opinion. It wasn't Argentina's best performance. In fact, I'd say it was one of the worst Argentina performances I've seen. Australia certainly deserved the victory at the end of the day. I think the final margin was 6 points, but it was just an Argentina performance that wasn't clinical enough. They worked themselves into good positions and they'd knock the ball on, and it was really just frustrating. And I almost got the feeling, I almost wanted to say, they don't seem to be as well coached as the Jaguares.
Yeah, no, it was a poor performance, Brent. They were nowhere near their normal selves, and the big thing was the handling. The handling was really, really shocking from them, and that usually, they're quite skilled and got good distribution skills and good handling skills. So that was definitely a disappointment for me seeing that from them. But the big one as well is you said it, I think in some forum or somewhere, is that. They can't go to the World Cup with that scrum. Ledesma, he's a prop. He's got to sort out that scrum somehow. I was looking from a betting perspective to go big on that first game, Argentina and France. And as you say, France are going to really take them to task up front there. They've got to try and sort that out, because as long as they don't have that platform to work from, they're always going to struggle. They probably had Australia in all facets, but if you can't get going from scrum time, it's almost like everything else was panicky, and they were struggling from that point. And I must say, I was like, I had a bet on Argentina to stay within a certain handicap, and I thought I was dead and buried after 20 minutes because Australia were absolutely flying. It was a one-sided contest, and I actually think Australia should have won by plenty. They were definitely the dominant team there, and they looked much better with Lealiofano at 10. And I'm not the biggest fan of him, but he was much better than Foley's been. I don't know, Foley's a confidence player, and he's struggled. So it was a little bit of a better setup there, I think, for them. And Naisarani really came into the game, which was good. If they're going to play that big number 8 ball carrying, they really got to get him involved. And I think he had a strong game. So for him, that was a big game. And as we said, the packs stood up well. And then Karevi was his normal self. Kurandrani was in the game a little bit. They brought Tamua off of the bench to try and see what he can offer, but I don't think it was really, really enough time. To me, the big winner there was Lealiofano. I think he's going to put some pressure on Chaka now in terms of his best setup. And as I said, it was an impressive show from Naisarani at 8 for me. Argentina, nothing really to take from that performance. Pablo Matera was strong again, and that's about it.
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing there from Argentina. I'll just touch on it with the other guys. I'm just enjoying Sean's comment on the live chat there. We were just talking about, the guys were talking about the fact that South Africa are in fact the favourites now to win the Rugby Championship. We're 1 point ahead of New Zealand, which means certainly if we get a bonus point victory, it's ours. And Sean, otherwise you're suggesting it comes down to boundaries, eh?
Yeah, mate. Don't really want to go down to an evens on points and have to figure out what cuck they're going to come up with to give someone the win. So yeah, hopefully we don't. Hopefully we score more boundaries along the way and take it away from them. But bonus point win and we win it outright.
That's it. Yeah, we can leave it. We can make sure there's no doubt. You just get the feeling, and I hate to say this, but I wasn't impressed with Argentina against Australia. But you just got that feeling they're saving their best for the Springboks. But we'll see what happens out. You didn't watch much of the Argentina game, eh?
No, I got bits and pieces of it, but yeah, I didn't watch too much. I thought, I think a big thing, Will Genia and his final game at Suncorp in Wallaby Gold, and he got man of the match. I thought he was really good, but I think Marika Korobetti on the left wing was incredible. I know he beat a number of defenders, but I know the opening Hodge try was insane, where he took an inside ball and linked up nicely with the guys. They absolutely opened them up like a can of worms. It's an incredible try. And so he's definitely one to watch. He blows a bit hot and cold, but when he's hot, he's cooking.
Yeah, I must say, and Genia, I mean, I must say, I wrote him off a couple of years back already. I thought his best days were long behind him, but I thought he was superb on the night. I really did think he stood out, and in a game where not that many stood out, but I thought he, even with the boot and that, he just controlled things so well and showed the value of having a really, really top scrum off there. And in fact, just when he was pulled, I actually backed Argentina to score. I can't remember, I needed them to score a try, which they did. But I based it purely on the fact that Genia went off, because I really did think he was controlling that game well. But Jared, let's go to you. I know you didn't get to see much of this one either, but generally speaking, a bit of a trend with Argentina at the moment is that their scrums are a bit weak, and they're in one hell of a tough World Cup group. They're going to have to get that right.
Yeah, I can't understand what's happened to their scrum over the years. I think it was Mallet after the game even said that if Sekope Kepu can scrum this Argentine pack, then we don't have to worry about that at all for the Springboks. And yeah, Kepu, it's maybe a bit harsh on Kepu because he is a veteran, but yeah, I do seem to agree with him. That's the one area where every time we used to play the Argentines, we used to worry about. But from what I did see on the game, I thought Issa was pretty good for Argentina. It was nice to see him back, and if they can get him firing and carrying like he did, then he could cause us a few problems with Matera in the back line, in the back row as well. And then Cordero was also good to see back, but he didn't show any of his Premiership form, which they'll probably want to get out of him this week or next week against us.
Yeah, that's it. Some of the overseas guys, I must say, Issa was quite impressed with him, and I do think that on paper, anyway, that back row of the Argentines is absolutely superb. But let's move on now let's get back to the box now, because I want to just dig a little bit deeper into the box. And Jared, I'll start with you. Let's talk about the tight five, starting perhaps with the front row. How do you think the guys stood up? And anyone, bearing in mind who played last week and that, who are we looking at who's looking like our starting front row?
Well, I think the starting front row might just stay the same from what we played against the All Blacks. I thought Malherbe was quite terrible, in all honesty. I think we held our own in the scrums. We actually had a few stages of dominance in the first half, but I think Malherbe, he just didn't offer much other than scrumming. And for me, we have to start getting a mix where you see Trevor coming off and he's giving some sort of impact in the scrum and open field. We need something more from Malherbe for him to stay in the starting lineup. I think Marx's lineouts were a bit more shoddy this weekend, and it was Rassi's one big complaint from the game is that our lineouts was misfiring. But what I thought was brilliant was our whole front row off the bench. I thought they were all excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, they took control. Certainly the lineouts have been a worry, I think, in both games now. We've lost a lot of lineouts on our own ball, but let's move across to Couch, the tight five.
Well, I think the big thing is we know, regardless of how they're going to start, those six are going to be, they're going to be on the plane, and they're going to be the 23 for any game. The two franchises. It's just the case of what the combinations are going to be. I mean, I've made peace with the fact that Malherbe is going to be there, and he's not going to be the best ball carrier or even defensive player, but usually he's solid as a rock at scrum time. And I must say that to me was a little bit of a concern. I don't think he was as solid. He was obviously up against Moody. He's pretty decent, but I don't think Malherbe dominated that clash, or no, he was under pressure. But I think Trevor did a better job when he came on. But obviously, Trevor is usually a better impact player. I mean, Malherbe doesn't offer much by having him on the bench. So then you have to go to a Vincent Koch if you want to have someone else there. But it was pretty powerful. Again, I've had arguments with guys about Beast, and he just showed his class coming off the bench there. You can't teach him anything, and maybe he doesn't run with the ball quite as much, but scrum time, I mean, he doesn't have his equal in South Africa, I don't think. So that was good. Marks, it was surprising. I don't know, it wasn't his best performance. Usually he's much more lively than that, and it was a little bit disconcerting. But I mean, there's nothing big to worry about there. He's Malcolm Marks. He's, me, I think he's the best hooker in world rugby at the moment. So he'll bounce back. And I love how Bongi's developed his game. Again, both of them I think need to work more at line-out time. That's obviously going to be crucial. Yebben solid again. It's taken him 2 games and he's back to the Yebben we know, back to being the enforcer, back to being a very vital cog in our wheel. We can't play without him. Morsi was good there at lock as well. Good to have him involved. And then Argia, I mean, he came on, brought a big influence. The only thing is, he's really got to clean up that discipline. I also said I would like to see him start, but I think he actually got a tick against him there. You could see Rassi was not impressed with that penalty of the restart where he took out the guy in the air. I mean, that's idiotic. You can't afford that in international rugby these days and in World Cup. So he's definitely, we like his passion, we like his aggression that he brings on, but he's really got to find a way of tempering that balance and being the complete player that we need him to be. And I rate him highly, so he's got to get that under the belt. But I think we saw the best on show in terms of our tight fives there, and I don't see anyone really muscling their way into that one. Lewitt's obviously going to probably be in the discussion, but I think we pretty much got our solids there.
Sean, let's go to you now on the tight five. I think that just looking at the live chat, the general feeling is that guys aren't too impressed with Malherbe there, and that Marks had an off game. I don't think many of us would advocate canning Marks on the basis of that performance. As Couch says, everyone's allowed 1 or 2 of those. He just was probably a bit quieter than normal. But I think almost a positive for me was that we can actually find a lot of areas in our game, in particular the lineouts and that sort of stuff, where we could actually show improvement, and yet we still managed to get the draw. I'm not sure if Sean's connection has gone down there. Sean, yeah, he's gone a bit stationary. So Sean's probably going to come back to us now. So we'll get Sean's comment on the tight five. Jared, just to come to you quickly, you touched on the front row. Any comments on the locks from your side?
Yeah, I thought our locks were solid. I think Eben, like Hans said, Eben is starting to hit his real form that he shows with the Springboks. Form that we haven't seen at the highest level for quite a while. So I'm quite happy with that. I thought Mostert was a bit off the pace, but just from his high standards. And I think that's where someone like Lewitt can start to push his way in a bit. Like Hans said, I think Argia, he's got all the passion, he's got the ability. It's just keeping his head at the crucial moments. And if there is a lock that could lose their place for the World Cup, I think it might be Argia, and it's just for that. I'm still a believer that Lewitt and Eben are our best combination starting, but not maybe our best 2 locks starting every single game.
Right, and yeah, combinations can be crucial. Sean, you're back with us. How about your comments on the tight five?
Awesome. I was just a little bit worried about Malherbe, and I think we've all discussed it at length, and I think it's kind of people are diving into it. I thought Nyakani really stepped up. Beast and Kitshoff are incredible. Doesn't matter who you start or who you bench. So as long as we manage that properly, we'll do well. And then hooker-wise, we're doing okay. I think Malcolm Marks needs maybe rustiness or whatever the case may be. He wasn't his usual self on the field today, but there were a number of guys that weren't on Saturday. So yeah, and it was okay. I think Eben had a reasonably quiet game, but quite a good one. It's a bit of a sort of contradicting statement, but I thought he was okay. More that he didn't put a foot wrong. But the locks-wise, I think we're in a good space, and I think I quite like what Jared said in terms of the combinations versus the best locks. I think that's all we need to do is we need to find out who's the best guys working together, and we've got to work with them.
Right, Judge, let's stay with you and move on to the loose forwards. Did they all get ticks at the end of the day? Kwagga, perhaps playing in a role that doesn't suit him that well, but ultimately I thought he did enough to stick his hand up.
Yeah, I thought he was. He didn't set the world on fire, but Flip, he did his job. Like he made his tackles, he made some meters, he got some steals. He did quite a bit. Like he really didn't disappoint. I don't think you can expect him really to, like, if he really opened up and had the game of his life, it would have taken quite a lot from a number of other players to assist him along the way. He couldn't have done it on his own. And I thought he did really, really well. Like, I really thought he stood up. I definitely think he's better suited to that role than Reinhard Elstad, who, for me, played out of position last week. And I just think, I thought he did okay. He definitely didn't hurt his World Cup chances. We just need to figure out what sort of work we want to do and how we want to do it. I thought Francois Lowe was pretty good when he came back on. He's starting to win over a couple more guys after not being so great. And unfortunately, that's going to be at the expense of probably Coetzee, much to Jared's disappointment.
Well, we'll get Jared's comments now. Let me go to you, Jared. Just what the thing that I remember from Francois Lowe in that game, there was that period, and I think Couch touched on it earlier in the second half, when New Zealand started playing really New Zealand rugby like only they can. And they were offloading and they were flying through us and they worked their way all the way upfield. They got into the 22 and Francois Lowe had come on and he won us a penalty to relieve the pressure there. And there's some calls in the live chat I see saying that he should start. He did have a big game when he came on, Jared. And who else impressed amongst the Lucies?
I think our whole loose trio was quite good. I see a lot of comments going around saying Dwayne was average during the game. And I think that's a bit harsh. I think we also have a preconceived standard for him. But yeah, he wasn't. I don't think he was average. I think it was just a little bit below what he normally produces in the Bok jersey. He wasn't getting as many skills at the breakdown, but he also had Kwagga doing that. And when Francois Lowe came on, Francois Lowe was doing the same thing. But yeah, I'll put my hand up. I said that Kwagga isn't the right fit and build for the Springbok squad. And I think he showed against the All Blacks that there is a place for him and he can be used quite effectively for us. Sean can take his Coetzee comments and put it somewhere else. But yeah, yeah, and then I don't know if we really have to say too much about Peter Steph du Toit that hasn't been said during the week. I struggle to really think of a blindside flanker that you can say out and out he's better than Peter Steph du Toit at the moment. Peter Omani is always producing for Ireland and Matera is producing for Argentina, but you can't say without a doubt that those two are better than him. And then, finally on Lowe, I also had 50-50 feelings about him. And then every single time he comes off the bench, he seems to produce something when we need it most. He put in quite a big tackle count in the last game in Wellington. And then this game, as you said, he comes up with a crucial steal when the All Blacks look certain to score. So I'm quite happy if he is going to the World Cup.
Yeah, I must say he has impressed me. I also wasn't too sure about him. Let's get Couch Critics' comments on the loose trio.
Yeah, Brent, I'm with the guys there. I don't know why I was against my old Cape Townian there, but I was struggling for Flo being called up. I don't know what Rassie kept going back to him for, but in the two games he's been superb, and to me he just showed a little bit coming off the bench what the outright six role is in rugby. Even though the Springboks don't often use that role, he was superb at the breakdown there. And no, I didn't really want him playing 8 in the first game, but he still made it work. And yeah, he's booked his ticket. There's no going back from that. And as Sean said, unfortunately, firstly, it means that Warren Whiteley is not going to get back into the squad. I think that's a given. It's just not going to make it. And as well as Kwagga's performance and his versatility makes it tough. And then you still got Marshall. So I just hope Marshall gets a go at one of the 2 remaining games, because there's no use being brought back and getting one game off the bench and nothing else. So he really needs to get a shot and try and put his hand up. Just after the match, a lot of people were Kwagga, shouldn't be at this level. He just he doesn't play the game that you see from him at the Lions. But again, they're asking him to play a different role. I've heard guys saying, but he's a top fetcher 6. Maybe he's good enough to make it work, and he's a quality enough rugby player to make it work and to put in the hard yards. And the surprising thing is, sevens often actually teaches you to be a good defender. He's very busy as a tackler. He knows he can't miss tackles, and he really puts in that extra effort. I still feel he's better suited to a little bit more of an open role and not be said, listen, just be a jackal, just go for the ball. Because, I mean, if you had to list his 2 primary skills, it's pace and skill. Those are the 2 number 1 things of, or 2 number 1 things doesn't make sense, does it? The 2 top things of Kwagga is those are the 2. And then you go and play him in a role where you don't really use either of those 2. I mean, the biggest thing that caught the eye was that turnover, and then he did a kick, because he's the only guy in the pack who can actually kick the rugby ball, except the toy. He kind of tried to override that. But otherwise, he is the only guy who has that kind of skill. So you take him out of a position where he can use that skill, and you tell him to just go and stick your head in there where you never see the sun. So it's a bit of a tough one, but maybe in international rugby there isn't a space for that. But I still think Kwagga, put him on a bench, and he can come on to cover 6 if need be. He can come on and play 8 and be a little bit looser. Just have him involved. To me, he's probably, hopefully said, listen, take me along. I like the guy. I want him there. So that's obviously, it's going to be tough. He's against Marshall, obviously, but otherwise he's going to be there. And then, the Steph the toy, there's nothing to say. The only thing I would say is that player of the year, I'd have Pablo Matera and Peter Steph the toy competing there as a shootout. I don't know, have them standing next to each other and jump for a line-out ball and something, and whoever wins it wins the player of the year, because they've been superb to me in a different level to the others. And
Peter
then, I've already...
Sorry, Peter Steph the toy winner because he can hit the longest boundary, bro.
Yeah, I was going to say, we could give them cricket bats.
There we go.
Cool. Okay, that's it. Yeah. So I was pretty impressed with the loose tray. And Dwayne. I mean, Dwayne is Dwayne. It doesn't matter that he might have been a bit more quiet, as you guys said. We played a fetcher, so he didn't really need to do that. That one knock on was obviously shocking, but I mean that happens to the best of us. So, that's Dwayne. I'm sure he still put in quite a lot of tackles, and hopefully he's kind of that guy who lifts himself for the big game. So I think he might just be saving a little bit for the big dance.
Right, well, Couch, I'll stay with you to start you off, give you first crack at the 9 and 10 combination. We of course had Faf going off, and I believe he was concussed, so they're going to. There's a good chance I think he wouldn't be considered for the next match, which might give Rassie a chance for some options, because let's face it, where we were looking at Yankees as a number 3, he's knocking hard on the door to be at the very least a number 2.
Yeah, definitely, Brent. It's a little bit of a tough one, because I still believe in picking your best scrum off and then picking your best bench player. And I just think Reinach is almost perfectly suited to being a impact player off the bench. So it's going to be tough where you say, I mean, you can't cancel out Faf de Klerk. He's going to be the starting 9. I mean, Sean has actually discussed it previously. He's a creative playmaker, number 9, and that's the role that Rassie wants from him and enjoys from him. And you can't go now to a 9 who's just a more sniper, quick service, which is obviously great. We all love that, but it just changes your whole setup. Even though Pollard probably wouldn't mind, because he's a captain thinking kind of number 10, so he quite likes making the decisions himself. So it wouldn't actually bother him too much. But you're not going to be playing a World Cup semi-final with Herschel Yankees all of a sudden being the starting scrum off if you can help it. So give Faf. I mean, you might as well just give him off now. We know he's the starting one. Form is decent. Just cool your heels and try the other 2 oaks. I mean, to me, the problem you have is Reinach needs some time in the saddle there. He needs to get into the system as a starter and not just have in the next 2 games, 20 minutes off the bench. That's not going to help. At the same time, he's almost got this problem now that he didn't foresee, that everyone is going to be calling. Everyone's on the Yankees bandwagon. And I mean, rightly so. He's had 2 magic appearances, but you still need one of those 2 games. Reinach needs to start, and one of the 2, Herschel needs to start, and hopefully the other guys on the bench for the other 2. So that's the way you should do it there. And yes, I mean, great performance from them. And the nice thing, I actually saw someone straight after the game have a comment about Herschel Yankees not scoring closer to the poles. And the first interview I saw, they had a discussion with Yankees. No, but this was actually quite good. And the first thing he said, without being asked, he said, geez, I should have scored, closer to the poles, but I was so excited, I didn't think, and I just dotted it down. And he was like, but luckily Pollard is a very good kicker. So at least, he still had that in his mind afterwards. It's not like, he didn't see it or think about it at all, which to me is brilliant, thinking that at least he knows, listen, in that moment, still, I should have scored closer to the poles, which is good. And then fly off, I mean, you don't need to say anything about Pollard. Pollard was steady. Pollard was good. Pollard has just got to stay fit, please. And the big surprise was I thought Frans Steyn would come on and play a bit of fly. So to me, that was a bit of a disappointment. I think I wanted to see Frans Steyn get a bit of game time at fly off, because I think Rassie is taking him as a third option there if something goes horribly wrong. And now he's going to have to park that off for one of the other two games. But then again, I know when we go onto the centres, plenty will be pushing him for the 12 jersey. So yeah, that's it.
Right, let's go on to Jared and get his comments then on the 9 and 10 combination. Jared, I must just say up front, I thought Faf, while he was on, I thought his kicking, he did a lot of kicking, and I thought his kicking was very, very good in that first half in particular. I felt we were able to contest for most kicks, and if you're playing against New Zealand, that's what you have to be able to do, because if you're just kicking it down their throats, you're gonna be tackling all day.
Yeah, I think we did kick well while Faf was on the field.
Looks like we may have lost Jared this time. The old connections. Oh, sorry, Jared. Carry on.
Yeah, I thought we kicked well while Faf was on the field. Also think that New Zealand had quite a poor kicking game, funny enough. And I think that was a hats up to how Pollard and Faf were kicking. I was happy with Faf's passes. He didn't have too many brain fades, which he often does. He will do one or two brilliant things in a game, and then he'll go and do something completely stupid to outdo what he's just done well. On Pollard, I thought he had an on and off game. He had one or two flashes of brilliance, and then when we had opportunities to strike, his pass went wayward. One example I had is when he went down, I think it was Faf, went down the short side and gave it to Pollard, and Pollard threw like a rocket pass, and I think it was out to Colby, and you just couldn't hold on to the thing. So yeah, and Jantjies, he's also just doing very well. It's an incredible start to his Test career, but I do agree with Han. I think we need to see Reinach start, and I would start him in the first game against Argentina in Salta. I think we can, as South Africans, we seem to be a bit lethargic every time we go to Salta, and I think starting somebody like Reinach, who will be so hungry to prove himself in the green jersey, will be just the kind of spark to keep us up there and keep the tempo there.
Yeah, that's a good point, I think. Just Chris making the comment in the live chat, Chris Maton saying, Sean, that he hates box kicks, kicking the ball away. I actually think, I'm not a massive fan of kicking either, but I think the box kick is a reality of this World Cup that we're going to be seeing. We're going to be seeing loads of box kicks from all the team. And if you are going to box kick, then box kick well. And I think that's what Faf, to me, has improved that tremendously since he's gone up north.
Yeah, I think we might not necessarily hate box kicks. I think we might hate Faf's bad box kicks. I think he's taken a lot of time. That wasn't part of his game, and he started working into it. He slowed himself down quite a bit this week. He definitely wasn't the way he normally plays. So he was just being a little bit more methodical, and he executed a little bit better. And yeah, you can't fault him on his game, except maybe one or two wayward kicks. So, he didn't really put a foot wrong. He did his basics right. I was okay, and I think he will get better. I thought in the first half, with all the dominance we had, is the perfect time for Faf to be in the mix. I think perhaps because of that, he was too much in the mix, and it was quite easy for the All Blacks to pick off. I thought Handré Pollard was in the same boat. I thought a couple of things went well and a couple of things didn't. I was very upset with that breakdown blind. That was a set move off a scrum. The whole point of that was for Pollard to run and on the inside shoulder and set Colby away, and he fluffed it with a really crap pass. And those are the moments that matter. That's so important that we get front foot ball there. That's a different story. I know Rico Ioane was set on Colby, but Colby step inside. We've got 10 meters front foot ball. We recycle and we go. It's a different scenario altogether. So I was very frustrated with that. It was a set piece move. It wasn't fly off the cuff. It was, they knew what was going on, and he just like pooed it, you know. So that was the thing that bothered me. And I thought Jantjies, when he came on, excellent. I think we are taking 3 nines to the World Cup. I'll be very honest. I don't think Reinach will offer anything less than what Jantjies will, to be fair. Like hypothetically, if we take 2 scrum halves and we take one instead of the other, you're not losing or gaining. Like, I think they both offer add value in all sorts. So I'm glad we're taking all 3, and I agree. I think he needs to play. Last World Cup we went with an uncapped 9 and in Rudy Page, and we hardly played him. And I don't want to go to the World Cup with passengers. I want to go to the World Cup with 9s that, if you say, listen, he's going to play in a semi-final, then he plays. And I'll be honest, and Hein, like, just a little bit against what you said, if Jantjies had to start in a semi-final for us, I must say I wouldn't really be too bothered by it. And like, it's his 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th game maybe, and yeah, there's an experience factor to it, but I think he really has handled himself well. He's on the plateau now. I just want to see where that goes. Like, does it go down? Will it carry on his upward trajectory? So I think we're in a good space with 9s. I think we go to the World Cup with these 3 9s that we have at the moment in the squad, and we won't be disappointed with either of them.
Yeah, we're looking pretty settled with the 9s there, and it's not something we probably could have said even as short as a year ago. Sean, we'll stay with you there. Let's move on to the centres. There's going to be lots of guys with opinions on this in the chat, I think. We had Daelander and starting, and then Jesse Creel coming on. What did you make of the starting centres?
I thought they conducted themselves well. Like, I think the 12-13 pairing defensively, I thought they did excellent work. I love the communication. I'm a big fan of Lukanya. I think he's our best outside centre that we have. I thought Damien did really well. No one's going to ever applaud the guy. I mean, he could win the World Cup for us and people will still say it's crap. So, you know, it is what it is. I thought he handled himself well. Sonny Bill Williams was largely non-existent in the game, and a lot of that traffic came in the 12 channel on Damien, and then obviously some of the loosies covered when they shift out wide. But, you know, if Francois Steyn was there and Sonny Bill Williams had nothing to do in a game, everyone would applaud Francois Steyn. So, you know, you guys got to be authentic. Like, I'm all for it, but you've got to be honest. When a guy plays well, you've got to say so. So, you know, I think, like, a lot of time with that ball, there's 2 things that I have, and it's a discussion I'll have when we chat about Villaroo in terms of where I feel he should attack, especially with De Lendi there. And I think that sort of combination style will work on. But like I said, I'll address it a little bit later. But I thought De Lendi and worked really good. I have no problems with them. I thought when Kriel came on, I thought he was we were taking a lot of traffic in the 12-13 channel the whole game. But I think when Kriel came on, he was asked to do a lot of defensive work, and the whole team was, and he slipped a few tackles. And that was a little bit disappointing. And compared to his game with us against Australia, he was below par. If you just look at him from last week to this week. So, you know, it wasn't great. I think Kriel and Amar are 13s. There's no doubt about it. I think Francie Steyn is going to come through and cover that 12 channel as well. So, you know, I don't think Esterhuizen's going to go to the World Cup, even though he's been recalled back into the squad for the Argentina trip. You know, I think we're in a good space with those combos.
Yeah, I think we're looking pretty healthy at centre there, although perhaps some people may not think it's that settled. Couch, your opinion on 12 and 13?
It's the same story as Faf de Klerk and Willie Leroux. Really, it's Damien Daelende is his 12. You're not going to go anywhere else. I think it's quite. It's good that Sean talked about defense, because I think on attack, the 2 moves that Colby did well, none of the balls went past Damien Daelende. Luckily, you know, they had to do an alternative move because it never goes past him. So that was a good thing, because I still like to see his pass. I haven't seen it in a year. That'll be nice, but solid. He's defensively is good. Taking up the ball is good. So I mean, there's not a lot wrong with Damien Daelende, but we don't have other options. And Rassie isn't going to go for Franstein now. I mean, that's the ship has sailed. He's not going to start Franstein. He's going to try and hopefully, find a slot for him off the bench, and maybe he can come on and play inside as he's done. But he's not going to shift away from the Pollard, Damian Darlende combination, and that's actually the big reason I think gets the nod for me at this stage at 13. I just think when you're playing Pollard, when the pressure's on, he likes to tuck the ball and have a run. Damian Darlende likes to have a run. You can't have a 13 that also just likes to have a run. Then your wingers really aren't going to see any ball. So is just a little bit more heads-up player, a little bit more creative, where clearly got to put him into the space. Is the guy who creates the space. So for me, it's always about balance in the team. I don't think you can outright say who's a better center between Jesse Kriel and Lukhanyo, but I think you got a horses for courses. And to me, in this setup at the moment, Lukhanyo is probably just the better option. And but I mean, yes, obviously Jesse needs to be involved, and I like that France is involved. And I think Esterhuizen has played himself out of the team, and definitely France is, he covers the extra. Can probably go to outside centre if needs be, and he can do fly off. So he's definitely the better squad option as well. So we all sorted there, and as I said, I think it's probably going to be our first choice centre pairing that the duty now.
Right, let's go get Jared's comments on the centres.
Yeah, I think the Islander came under a bit of unfair criticism this week, and I think it's more people just continually seeing a certain style from him, and I think we just need to get to the stage where we need to understand that that's how he plays the game. He's not going to be your Ryan Crotty that's going to create something magical with a brilliant kick pass or some sort of awesome offload or whatever, but he's far from terrible. He's solid for us, and I think he does work well with in particular. So I don't have an issue with how he played, and I think he actually chased kicks down quite well, which isn't really a core role of his. But I think he put quite a bit of pressure on Mo'unga and Barrett when we chipped over their defense and they covered it. For me, I saw a few comments going around saying that Kriel is definitely the starter. And I agree with Han. I think cemented his place in the starting lineup. He was brilliant on defense, as in the way he was talking to the players and moving players around, and that's something you don't always pick up on when you're watching the game live. And I've had a few looks afterwards, and he really does handle that well. He takes on the responsibility and thrives with it. So I'm quite happy with his performance, and that try as well. It was a bit more Mapipi shooting out of the line when he really shouldn't. And if you have Beauden Barrett going on the outside against anyone, I'm backing Beauden Barrett to beat that man, and you can't blame for something like that.
Yeah, I must say, I made the comment on Twitter at the time that it's often Barrett's speed that actually, I mean, he's so skillful all around the park, but often what deceives defenders is Barrett's speed, because he's deceptively fast. And certainly it looked like at one point the tackle was going to be made, and he's got that ability just to change gear very quickly, Barrett. And I agree.
The acceleration is also next level. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, geez. I mean, you got to say Hansen is experimenting in that, but he's got some problems that most coaches would absolutely love to have. I mean, to try and choose between Mo'unga and Barrett there at 10. But Jared, let's stay with you for the final stretch here and get your opinion on the back three on Saturday.
Yeah, I think Mapipi had probably one of his worst games in a Springbok jersey, and it's harsh to say because I don't think he's been particularly terrible. His defense, yeah, he had a few hiccups in defense, but the system that we're using at the moment, it's very demanding on our wingers defensively, and you sort of have to make the split decision whether you shoot up and you don't. And if you look at somebody like Colby, he nailed it. He nailed it on Saturday. He gave Rico Ioane absolutely nothing. I read an article in, I think it was the New Zealand Herald, where they said that was Rico Ioane's worst test match in his career. And Colby was the main reason behind it. And he was just beating defenders all over the place. He was excellent on defense. And then he comes up with something special right at the end. And again, I'm going to have to put my hand up and say he's somebody that I didn't want in the starting line. I wanted him off the bench and tearing people apart for 20 minutes. But when he can do it for 80 minutes, why not start him?
Yeah,
and then finally on Billy Leroux, I thought he was particularly quiet, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And I just think that he was coming into first receiver far too often for us. So Pollard would carry the ball up, and it was almost immediately that Leroux would come up into the line and take over. Where I think he needs to be running a lot wider than that, and you're either in between your 12 and 13, or between your 13 and your wing, which I know Sean will carry on a bit later as well.
excellent. Well, let's go across the couch. We'll give Sean the last word on the 14, 15, and 11 jerseys. Couch.
Yeah, listen, I think Mapimpi is in a bit of trouble now. It's Colby he looks like he's wrestling the 14 away. I'm with Jared. I thought he was gonna mind his own business and come on off the bench, but now he's gone and grab the 14 jersey, which just creates all sorts of problems, because we've just turned Nkosi into a 14, and now I'm struggling, because now I want Nkosi back to left wing, because Nkosi's got to start after the Aussie game and his Super Rugby form, and Colby's got to start, and we all know Rassie loves Dayante, and I mean he's got just unbelievable X factor. So for me, those three are going to be the wingers that are going to rotate in World Cup. So I think Mapimpi is probably not even gonna get on the airplane. I think the one issue for the guys, mentally, everyone hates talking about this, but playing a Willie and a Colby, whether they're really going to go for the two smaller guys, and then just the one slightly bigger wing. As I said, I'm more concerned about, are you really going to stuff Nkosi back towards another wing now? So that's going to be interesting. Colby, or what a game! I mean, that's usually why we keep Willie in the squad, is that we don't have a lot of plans and a lot of creativity in our backline, and we like to rely on one X factor guy to just break things up for us. And in this case, it was Colby. I mean, it was a beautiful little move down to him, between him and Faf, which created space, which was our second best move. And then the other one was the wraparound blindside with Willie there. We almost cocked it up with that forward pass, or the flat pass, and putting him into space. And that was what I actually like. Is I do like when we've got a ball close to the middle of the park, when Willie does come in and play a second fly of one. Pollard on the one side and Billy on the other side. To me, that's the way you should be using a creative kind of fullback. Even if Geland plays, I mean, he's a guy who's used to getting the ball as a center, as a schoolboy. So get the guy involved, and that's where I like is especially that we've got your two playmakers basically on either side, and both guys have got a boot, use a grubber or a cross kick or whatever. So that's what I like, and they used it well there, even though he was a little bit wider. Great game, yeah, and Mapimpi not that well. Billy, as they said, it's actually good that he probably had a little bit of a quiet game. He didn't make a lot of mistakes. There was that one out on the full kick, which had us all screaming and shouting. But for the rest of it, he was pretty solid. He's still one of the better guys under high ball, which is important in modern day rugby. So, and there's no one knocking on the door for fullback. I mean, the problem is we've only got Warwick to challenge him, and to me, you go back to basics there. Warwick almost offers the same as Willie at the moment. He doesn't play an error-free game. He still tries a few things and makes a few too many errors for me. And then in that case, you might as well stick to a Willie who's at least got that experience and probably has a better boot. I mean, same getting a Damian Willems again, too error prone, then you might as well default to Billy. So there's going to be no moving away from that. And Frans Steyn is just not mobile enough to play fullback anymore. So there's it's going to be Billy, and that's it. And we just got to hope he's at his best come the time when it matters.
Right, and Sean, I think it's just you that we've got to have a comment on the back three to wind down the show.
Yeah, I think. Listen, there's no getting around where Mapimpi fell short this weekend. But I don't think he's a lost cause at all. I don't think it's a case of absolutely getting rid of him. I think he's sorted out defensively really well this whole season. I think he made errors on Saturday. There's no doubt about it. I do think it's an easier fix than not. It's unfortunate that we don't get him into a little bit more space on attack. So yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him play again. But we do have interesting questions. Deante didn't have a great Super Rugby season. He's coming back from injury. Mapimpi's the other left wing. And then we've got Nkosi, who's definitely going to start at 14. So are we going to shift Colby over? Or are we going to shift Nkosi back? We're starting to compromise and stuff around in places that we really shouldn't. Like, I want guys playing their positions and playing them well. I don't care if someone's got marginally a little bit more of something extra. If they're not playing in position, it's probably best not to go for them, especially now. I thought Colby was our man of the match. Definitely in the backs. He was incredible. I do think a lot of like that poor game by Rico Ioane, etc., came from the Kiwis not getting so much front foot ball in the first half, and they had no ball at all. And then Colby, when they did get a chance, he just gave him no space, and he went up and he smashed him to pieces. So very happy with him. I want Colby to start. There's no doubt. I wouldn't mind giving him a whirl at 15. Like maybe before the World Cup. Let's see what happens. He's played there a number of times for Toulouse. He's not unfamiliar with the positions. Actually got a decent boot on him, and we've seen how good he is under the high ball. So he kind of ticks those boxes. It'll be an experiment, and it's not going to be a permanent move, but it's worthwhile having a little look-see. I think Willie Leroux, I've got to give him credit in that he didn't make any errors. And the one error he did make was a kick out on the full. But he made all his tackles. Great assist. Well, great pass to Colby, which I actually thought was forward. But I've subsequently looked at it as a little bit marginal and a bit flat. So can't really say so. So he was okay. I think we expect more from him. And that's why we think he had a bad game. And I have mentioned it, but he really has come off a terrible season. So he's had some break, and he did his job well on Saturday, and we got a draw out of the game. I think Willie Leroux needs to, in the second, third phase, when he comes into the line, he needs to be coming into that line outside the 10 channel. So we need to have a runner, like a forward, like a Peter Steph-Toy or a Beast or a Kitsy, running in that 10 channel to crash it up and then pass to Willie there. Once he's out that channel is where I believe is his sweet spot. He's going to weave the magic. He's got guys shifting across. He's going to have a 13 to work with him. He's going to have a winger outside of him. I don't want him playing too much at 10. I think there's too much traffic there for him, and I think the guys will come up too quickly. I think he needs to be one channel outside, and that's where I feel is his best place for us more often than in the 10 space. But we'll wait and see and see what he delivers. Like, the truth is, he must start next weekend. I think he should. I think he needs one more game there. But I wouldn't mind moving Colby to fullback for the last 20 minutes, either off the bench or if he starts or wherever the case may be. And Francis Steyn, I think, is an absolute complete in-game Mayday 15 option. Like, he's not going to be on the bench to cover 15. He's going to be on the bench to play somewhere, and we've lost 2 backline players and he has to play 15, then so be it. But I don't think he's in the plans to train and coach there as an option. I think it's really a case of, oh shit, we need to put him there because we have nobody else.
Final question there for you, Sean. If it was a World Cup final coming up this weekend, what would your back three look like?
I'm right now. Yes, and of course he
Don't say Mapimpi. Don't say Mapimpi.
What, do you want me to put an untested player on left wing? Are we putting Nkosi back on left wing after we've just forced him to play right? I don't know. Like, how's Deante doing? It's crap. I'm going with Mapimpi on the left. I'm gonna go with Nkosi on the right. And after Saturday, I still would go with Willie at fullback, and Colby's gonna be on the bench. I'm not happy, yeah.
Excellent, guys. Thanks very much. I think that brings us to the end. Thanks a lot to the guys. The live chat was going crazy there. Lots of great debate in the chat as well. And thanks to all of you guys for joining us. We've got no rugby championships this weekend. So, yeah, just watch a bit of Curry Cup there, Jared, and get ready for Argentina.
yeah, the Currie Cup should be interesting this week. And Marta 10 starts with the Rugby Championship the following week, which is also going to be great.
Excellent. Yeah, I do enjoy the Marta 10 as well. Looking forward to that. Couch, you're going to be betting on the Marta 10 this year?
Oh, Brent, please let it start, or I'm going to be watching Ashes cricket or something, just anything but Currie Cup, because I know sweet blow bugger all what's going on there. I'm like, I think I'm buying a Cheetahs jersey because that looks like the only given at the moment.
I saw a tweet from someone today, and he had, fortunately for me, I couldn't watch Currie Cup on Saturday afternoon because this guy said he backed the Griquas to come within 13 points. They lost by 60, and he backed Western Province to win by more than 13. And they lost by 2. It was really that kind of weekend. It was really, really tough. But given that you've got a full-time job, you shouldn't be that worried about what you're going to watch during the day. Try to do some work for a change.
It was an absolute shocker, Brent. I was in the same boat. I got those two horribly wrong.
Excellent. And Sean, finally, thanks very much. And we're not going to Kimberley, unfortunately, for the final of the Currie Cup. Where is the final going to be? Who's going to win at the Cheetahs? Yeah, we don't know it yet. It's true. I mean,
my Pimpy is going to be back for the Sharks, and then he's going to win it for them in scoring on the wing. So don't worry.
Excellent, guys. Thanks very much. It's been a nice show. It's amazing how long we can go when we start talking about Springboks, and especially after a performance like that on Saturday. Thanks, everyone in the live chat, and thanks to the guys for joining me on the show. Remember, if you haven't subscribed to our videos, go down below and hit the subscribe button. We'll see you on Thursday night. All going well technically. We've got some challenges coming up with the handicap rugby chat that matters.